14-year-old Celeste found decomposing in the trunk of D4vd David Anthony Burke's Tesla.
Who in this office is and was leaking information about this 14-year-old child and her remains?
It's a violation of a court order.
The medical examiner's office was leaking information
of myself that would kind of come out at random moments. He would commit the crimes that I would have to solve as a detective. I'd be like solving murders that I'm committing myself.
He trained you. That's controversial.
It's controversial. Kids.
And again, I hate to talk like this, but it just is what it is. All the different pieces of her body kind of put back together on the examiner's table, that was shown in court.
Because that's a real conversation that happened. And the irony of it was that person that was saying, I love you, she's not in my life anymore.
September 8th, 2025, a Hollywood Hills tow yard. A manager calls the LAPD. There's a smell coming from an impounded car, a black Tesla Model X. It's been sitting there for 3 days. Officers arrive, get a search warrant, and open the front trunk. Inside, they find a body. The car is registered to a 20-year-old musician. Just months earlier, he was on stage at Coachella. His breakout song has over 1 billion streams. Its name? Romantic Homicide. Within days, his name is everywhere. Not for his music, but for a question nobody can yet answer. What happened to the girl in his trunk? This is the story of the D4vd case. From viral fame, to a missing teenager, to a courtroom in Los Angeles. Before we get into the case, you need to understand who D4vd was, because his fame is a central part of how this story unfolded. David Anthony Burke was born and raised with a passion for music from an early age. Like a lot of Gen Z artists, he didn't come up through labels or talent shows, he came up through TikTok.
What are your parents like? Are they musicians?
Not at all. My dad is a litigator for a law firm. My mother was a teacher. She doesn't do it anymore, but she does notary now.
In the early 2020s, D4vd started posting short clips of original songs. Lo-fi, moody, blending indie rock with R&B and bedroom pop. His sound was DIY. Raw vocals, simple production, emotionally direct lyrics. It resonated.
Very classical stuff. It was literally nothing. It was all gospel and like classical, Mozart, Bach, like all that kind of stuff. Because my parents wanted me to be really smart. They never like talked about college or anything like that, but they always wanted me to be very intellectual, very put together, have an idea of what I'm doing, but they never like listened to music like that at all.
In 2022, one of those songs broke through in a huge way, Romantic Homicide. It's a haunting, melancholic track about heartbreak. And despite the dark title, it's not about actual violence. It's metaphorical, the kind of moody teenage angst songwriting that's common in the genre. But the title would take on a chilling new context a few years later. The song exploded. It crossed 1 billion streams across platforms. D4vd signed with a major label. He built a large, devoted online fan base, young, largely teenage, deeply online. By 2025, he was no longer just a TikTok musician, he was a legitimate rising star. He played Coachella, he announced a headlining tour, Withered World. 2 days after his debut full album, Withered, dropped, everything would begin to unravel. Though the public wouldn't know it yet. This is important context because it explains why this case became a massive story almost overnight. It wasn't just a crime, it was a crime involving someone with millions of young fans. Someone whose art now stood in stark, uncomfortable contrast to the accusations against him. Before we go further, it's important to slow down and talk about the victim. Because in true crime coverage, it's easy for the accused to dominate the narrative. We don't want to do that here. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was 14 years old. She was from Lake Elsinore, California, a city in Riverside County, about 80 miles southeast of Los Angeles. Like many teenagers, she had a life outside of what would eventually make headlines. Family, a home, people who knew her before any of this happened. Her family reported her missing more than once throughout 2024. That detail matters. This wasn't a case where someone vanished once and was never thought of again. Her parents were actively searching, actively worried, actively trying to bring her home for the better part of a year before her death was confirmed. She was last seen alive on the night of April 23rd, 2025. For 4 months after that, her family didn't know where she was. They didn't know if she was alive. That's an agonizing place to sit, not knowing. It wasn't until September 2025 that they got an answer, and it was the one every missing person's family dreads. Throughout this video, we're going to focus on facts, on the timeline, the investigation, and the legal process. We're not going to dwell on graphic detail for its own sake. Celeste was a real 14-year-old girl, and this is ultimately a story about what happened to her.
Breaking news moments ago, the family of Celeste Rivas Hernandez has released a new statement after singer David appeared in court yesterday. The family says, quote, "We would like to thank the Los Angeles Police Department and the District Attorney's Office for their hard work. We would also like to thank the people of Lake Elsinore for all of their support. Celeste was a beautiful, strong girl who loved to sing and dance. Every Friday night was movie night, and we spent wonderful times together. We love her very much, and she always told us she loved us. We miss her deeply. All we want is justice for Celeste."
Let's walk through how this case came to light. On September 5th, 2025, a Tesla Model X was towed from the Hollywood Hills and brought to an impound lot. It had reportedly been abandoned. For 3 days, it sat there, until workers at the yard began to notice a strong, unmistakable smell of decay and flies gathering around the vehicle. The tow yard manager called the LAPD. Officers responded, and after obtaining a search warrant, they opened the vehicle's front trunk. The frunk, as it's called on electric vehicles like Teslas, since there's no engine there. Inside, they found human remains in an advanced state of decomposition inside a bag. Investigators worked to identify the remains. Because of the state of decomposition, this wasn't straightforward. They ultimately confirmed the identity through dental records. It was Celeste Rivas Hernandez, missing since April. The car was registered to David Burke, D4vd. Almost immediately, the story became national news.
Murder case against the singer known as David.
Gigi joins us now with more on what prosecutors unveiled in this new court document right away. We just want to let you know these allegations.
Preliminary hearing for David in the murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez.
A rising music star, a missing teenager, a body in his car, and it had every element that makes a case explode across social media and news cycles simultaneously. And this happened at a moment when the true crime on social media ecosystem, TikTok, YouTube, true crime podcasts, had become incredibly fast. Cases go from local news to global conversation in a matter of hours now, not weeks. In the days that followed, D4vd's public life changed dramatically. He canceled the remainder of his Withered World tour. He broke the lease on his Hollywood Hills home and moved out. Quietly, without a public announcement, his record label dropped him. Notably, none of this happened because he had been charged with a crime. At this point, no charges had been filed. He was, at most, a person connected to a police investigation. But the public and industry reaction moved fast regardless.
Telling my view on what the invisible string theory is, or the scarlet string, or the whatever, this is so many different names.
Is that like that? Is it also connected to like the rope that's around?
Yes.
In the
album
video?
cover, I'm covered in this string, which is representative of the invisible string theory. But throughout the entire project, I wanted everything to feel connected. I wanted everything to feel holistic and have a through line that everybody could understand. And with the interlude, it's kind of explaining from my perspective how it was taught to me, because that's a real conversation that happened. And the irony of it was that person that was saying, I love you, she's not in my life anymore. So it's like, people say that the string can't be cut and the connection cannot be severed, but I feel like it can sometimes. And that's why I wanted to put, Afterlife and all these songs that feel like endings and conclusions and goodbyes on the project to kind of solidify that message of this is the end of something, not the beginning.
Here's where the case takes an unusual turn, because for months, almost nothing appeared to happen publicly. There was no arrest, no charges, just silence, at least from the outside. Behind the scenes, though, a different process was underway, a grand jury investigation. In the American legal system, a grand jury doesn't decide guilt or innocence. Its job is to review evidence presented by prosecutors and decide whether there's enough to formally charge someone with a crime. These proceedings are typically secret, which is part of why the public didn't know much during this stretch. Reports at the time indicated that several people connected to D4vd, including notably members of his own family, declined to testify before the grand jury. That's a significant detail. In the US, witnesses can sometimes invoke their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination or simply refuse to cooperate, which can slow an investigation considerably. Then, in February 2026, About 5 months after the discovery, the case took an unexpected turn. Court documents that had originally been sealed were inadvertently made public. This didn't happen through the D4vd case directly. It happened through an unrelated legal battle in a Texas appellate court, where some of these documents surfaced as part of a separate filing. Those documents revealed something significant. D4vd had been named the central target of the grand jury's murder investigation. It's worth pausing on what that phrase actually means because it's often misunderstood. Being named a target of a grand jury investigation is a formal legal designation. It means prosecutors believe they have substantial evidence connecting that person to a crime. It is a serious status, but it is still not the same as being charged, indicted, or convicted. At that point, D4vd had not been arrested. He was, legally speaking, still innocent of any crime. Around this same time, reporting also pointed to a key witness in the case, a 23-year-old streamer named Neo Langston, who was reportedly connected to the investigation in some capacity.
Yep. So it feels like they're all on the run right now to some extent, trying to avoid the grand jury. If you can't avoid them.
The exact role of every witness in a case like this often becomes clearer only as the trial approaches, and we'll likely learn more as proceedings continue. For months, this was a strange limbo the case sat in. A named target, a mountain of evidence reportedly being gathered, but no formal charges yet. Eventually, that changed. D4vd was arrested and formally charged with first-degree murder, along with additional criminal charges connected to the case. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. This is an important marker in the story, because it moved the case from investigation into the formal court system, meaning the process would now play out through hearings, evidence disclosure, and eventually a trial. Prosecutors alleged that Celeste had, before her death, threatened to expose details about her relationship with D4vd. Details they say he was desperate to keep hidden, especially with his debut album about to release and his career on the rise. That alleged motive, protecting his public image and career, became central to the prosecution's theory of the case. D4vd's defense team pushed back on this framing from the start, and they would continue to do so as the case moved toward trial. In April 2026, D4vd appeared in court for his arraignment. By July 2026, the case reached a preliminary hearing, a critical stage in California's legal process. A quick explainer, since this matters for understanding what happened next. A preliminary hearing isn't a trial. The jury isn't deciding guilt. Instead, a judge reviews the evidence prosecutors have gathered and decides whether there's enough to justify sending the case to a full trial. It's a lower bar than proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Prosecutors just need to show probable cause. Over several days, prosecutors presented evidence to the court. This included forensic testimony connected to items found in D4vd's home and garage, as well as records related to purchases he'd reportedly made in the time between Celeste's disappearance and the discovery of her remains. Text message communications between D4vd and Celeste were also introduced as evidence, which prosecutors used to support their theory about the nature of their relationship and D4vd's alleged motive. We're intentionally not detailing the specific graphic forensic evidence or the content of those messages here. Court reporting on this case has been extensive if you want to read the primary sources yourself, but we don't think restating every disturbing detail serves this story. The broader legal narrative is what matters for understanding where the case stands. One moment from the hearing that did become widely reported, prosecutors presented Celeste's final text message, sent the night she died, arranging to be picked up. It was an ordinary, teenage kind of message, the kind any parent has probably received from their own kid. That ordinariness is part of what makes this case so unsettling to the public. The gap between the mundane last message and what allegedly happened next. The defense, led by attorney Marilyn Bednarski, argued forcefully against the murder charge. Their position was that the evidence didn't show intent to kill, that the communications between D4vd and Celeste showed no history of threats or violence, and that the medical examiner's finding that her death was a homicide caused by 2 puncture wounds was too inconclusive to support a first-degree murder charge. In her words, the evidence showed the opposite of homicidal malice. Prosecutors disagreed, arguing the totality of the evidence, the alleged motive, the physical evidence, and the timeline supported the charges filed. After hearing both sides, the judge ruled that there was sufficient evidence for the case to proceed to trial. It's also worth noting that because misinformation spread on social media during this period, and that prosecutors later clarified Celeste was not pregnant at the time of her death, addressing rumors that had circulated online. As of now, D4vd is formally facing trial for first-degree murder with special circumstances. In California, special circumstances is a legal designation that can apply when certain aggravating factors are present in a murder case, and it's significant because it affects sentencing exposure, potentially including the harshest penalties available under state law. No trial date has produced a verdict yet. The case remains ongoing, and it's likely we'll see continued hearings, evidentiary disputes, and pretrial motions before an actual trial begins. D4vd's career, meanwhile, has effectively stalled. He's no longer signed to his label. The tour that once had him playing to sold-out crowds has been cancelled. Whatever the outcome of the trial, the public narrative around him and his music has been permanently altered. For Celeste's family, the process has been long and, by all accounts, agonizing. Over a year of not knowing, followed by confirmation of the worst outcome, followed by a slow-moving legal process that is, even now, far from over. Cases like this tend to generate a lot of noise online. Theories, TikTok sleuthing, arguments in the comments about guilt or innocence before a single piece of evidence has been tested in front of a jury. We'd encourage some caution there. A preliminary hearing establishes that there's enough evidence for a trial, it is not a conviction, and D4vd remains legally presumed innocent until proven otherwise in court. What isn't in question is the loss at the center of this story. A 14-year-old girl who should still be here, and a family that spent over a year searching for the truth. We'll be following this case as it moves toward trial. If you want us to keep you updated, let us know in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss it. Stay safe out there.